Hello. Thank you for joining us tonight for our Masterclass at MBSC. We are grateful that you could join us and be with us. Sorry you couldn't be with us in person, but I am Jennifer Draculis, the Director of Admissions here at MBSC, and welcome to our Masterclass. Today we're going to start off with one of our professors, Dr. Farzad Khan. He is going to give you a mini session of how we teach and what we do at MBSC. Dr. Farzad?
Okay, assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm just going to take my mask off, and actually keeping my mask on would have been better, right, for your viewing pleasure, but it is what it is. So I'm going to share screen, and I'm slightly getting on with here. So one of the things we're going to be talking about is crisis, and there's something called Murphy. And Murphy's law basically states that if something's going to go wrong, it's definitely going to go wrong. And I think it will be exemplified with a vengeance as we proceed through my presentation. So let me try to share the screen and get the PowerPoint thing on the way. Okay, here we go. I assume you all can see that. And so what I'll be doing with you, and I hopefully won't abuse your patience for too long, is just going around 15 odd minutes about this topic, leaders and stress in a crisis situation, something that we can all relate to in these times, right? So that is what we're going to be going with. Now, I can't really see you. Normally in a class, I would have your wonderful radiant faces beaming at me in spite of my stupidities and my inanities, and I would be asking you questions. So if you do have, I will be asking some questions, and I guess the way we will proceed, I cannot see you at all, seriously, is for you to raise your hands through Zoom. I believe there's some kind of function where, you know, the high five type icon appears. At that point in time, one of my colleagues who's helping us with this webinar will basically unmute you, and then you can respond to any query of mine. So I hope it will not be too clunky a transition between you and me, but will give you a flavor of what goes on in the classroom here at MBSC. So this is the topic, but before we get into that, my name is Farzad. So you can call me Farzad, you can call me Dr. Khan, you can call me Professor Farzad. Any other name you wish to call me, you can do so in private. I don't need to hear it. And I guess I won't be here in this webinar format, so there's some grace in that. So this is my bio. I'll just leave it for about 30 to 45 seconds. Have a look at it. If I read this bio myself, I'll fall asleep. So it's better that you read it, then I do so. Okay, so I guess we can proceed. So here is image of her train wreck, but before we get to that, so the question is, what's a crisis? And now I'm going to pass on to you, or give the floor to you. So if you could raise your hand and give me examples of something that you can identify or define to be the quintessential crisis. Right? So please feel free to raise your hand. I'm not a magician. I can't bring you up and saw you in half. So quite happily volunteer and helped me out with this webinar. Okay, so if there's anybody who would like to ask, give me an example of a crisis, please do so. I'm listening.
Oh, you have somebody?
Yeah, go ahead, please. I have two participants have raised their hands. So Faisal, can you unmute them and let's hear what they have to share with us.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
To me, crisis means any situation where things go out of your plan, when it goes south.
Situation, well, sometimes south is nice. It's warmer than the north. And I spent a lot of time in Canada, where the situation is unexpected. All right, fair enough. But can you give me an actual example? So you've given me a definition, which is fantastic. You're way ahead of the curve. But as an example of a crisis, like what would be an example of a crisis? Like an actual event that has happened in history that you think, yes, if Oxford English Dictionary were to basically define a crisis, it would give this as an example.
Well, I think the time we're living in today is considered one of the examples, like the pandemic of COVID is one of the greatest, I guess, crises we've been through. Nobody expected this. I mean, businesses never imagined they would shift their businesses from offices to homes in, overnight. So I think this is one of the examples, I guess, what we're living in, the times of COVID.
I think many people would agree with that. Yes, absolutely. And what makes it a crisis, COVID for you, is the unexpected nature of it. Mike Tyson said it beautifully. So in my course, when I teach strategy, I use the example of Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan till they get punched in the face. So yeah. In COVID, in one sense, is a massive planetary punch on our social face. And it really is about responding to it. So COVID is one, and that's a current one, and hence also the reason we decided to choose this topic for this webinar. Any other examples? Anyone else? Anybody else like to volunteer? Another example?
It is the trouble time or the danger you go into. For example, the pandemic we lived this day.
Okay, so it's just not something unexpected, like a gift could be unexpected and welcome, right? So it's something unexpected, but it's also something dangerous, which is threatening the well-being of the object under question. Fair enough. But as an actual example, okay, since you're EMBAs or prospects for the EMBA, so you're a little bit more mature than, say, fresh undergrads. So jog your memory, 2008, what happened in 2008? As an example. Well, what happened where this country played a really pivotal role? It wasn't a crisis from our viewpoint, but it was a crisis from the viewpoint of the West in 1973. And this magnificent country, along with Venezuela, spearheaded that effort. Can anyone recall that? Something that occurred in the early 1970s that came to be called blank crisis. Does it ring a bell? Okay, suppose I put, we can play hangman, okay, 3 letters. So I put this and I put L here. What do you think comes in the middle? It's a very important export of this country. Anyone? Go ahead, Faisal, you can unmute someone.
Oil.
Yeah, oil, right? So the oil crisis. It wasn't a crisis per se for us, but it was definitely a crisis for the West, which had been getting oil from the ground from all over the world at rock bottom prices. And finally, the producers from the global South decided, hey, enough was enough. And we needed to get a fair compensation. And that was the oil crisis of 1973. We also have the global financial crisis of 2008, right? So given this discussion and these examples, Faisal, could you please launch a poll? Now, look at this picture that is in front of your screens rather, and you tell me, is this a crisis? So you mentioned that it's unexpected, that there is a danger to well-being, right? It's about the system going out of equilibrium. I mean, these are very good, thoughtful and rich descriptions. Okay, so what do we have? Wow, I feel like Joe Biden at the elections, with the numbers coming in, and wonder how many of these will be cast or will be contested. Okay. So it seems all right, and we're still waiting for about 30 odd people to chime in, but it seems right now that the yes have the lead. But we do have a significant minority that thinks differently, which is great. So, okay, we still have another 20 to go. We'll give it another 10 seconds for people to contribute if they wish to. All right, Faisal, could you press end polling? Okay, great. And we can now get rid of this. So basically, the vast majority, 81%, okay, are of the opinion that it is a crisis. Now, I'm curious about the 19%. So those of you who are the 19% who said no, why do you think this is not a crisis? Because the ones who said yes, they're very consistent with the discussion we've had thus far on what a crisis is. Something unexpected, something unwelcome, that's harmful and injurious to our well-being. So if those of you who voted no, if one or two of you could please share with us your insights as to how you deem this picture to be not a crisis. So Faisal, over to you. Let me. Yeah, go ahead, the nays, right? The ayes have it, but let's hear from the nays. So from the nays, okay, what makes this not a crisis in your estimation?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, my thought is that because it's a risk in a train, that in one of the days it should be out of his way. So this is a risk, not a crisis.
Okay, so you said this is just a risk. So it's what we would call, say, a normal accident, right?
Exactly.
So it was unexpected, but it is within our frame of reference, right? That we can anticipate these things materializing. Whereas for you, then if I understand you correctly, crisis would be something that's outside our sense of experience, something quite novel that we don't even have a language to make sense of. Anybody else from the names would like to share your thoughts on why you think that picture is not a crisis? One more? Anybody? Yes, someone has raised their hand.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
I think because this little incident affected only a small group of the community, not the whole community. So it's an incident, not a crisis. But I don't know.
I know these are excellent observations. So if you look at the examples we've given, these are things occurring at the planetary scale, right? So what you're saying is that for something unexpected, something unwelcome to be really called a crisis should be of a vast scale. It should be of a sufficient magnitude, right? I think that's also an interesting
Yes.
observation from the discussion we've had so far. So let's hear what Gramsci has to say. So Antonio Gramsci, very interesting man. And I will bring him up here. If I can just get my screen working, just bear with me. So Murphy is back, which is good. And since we're talking about crisis, let's wonder whether this technological glitch fits in that definition or not. Yes, from Joe. From this. We have to turn it on. Wait, okay. Here. So I'll just go here, but it's, okay, here we go. Thank you. So this is Antonio Gramsci. He was actually a very interesting guy, a dissident under the time of Mussolini. Mussolini was the man who invaded Libya. And Mussolini, as you know, from Italy, was part of the fascist wave that was taking place in the early 20th century. And the Italians went on a murderous rampage. After all, they were fascists. So out of every 4 Libyan Muslim, 1 was killed by the time the Italians were done with Libya, but alhamdulillah, they were turfed out. Gramsci was a principled man. He was opposing these kind of gangsters which were running Italy at that time, and he was imprisoned. He wrote an interesting book called Prison Notebooks, and he talked about how culture can be used to control thought very early on. So Gramsci here writes quite nicely, what is a crisis? Because if you use the word for just about every event, it kind of loses its meaning. If you say, for example, I love chocolate, I love a good grade, I love a car, I love God, then what does love even mean? So if crisis is basically used for any unexpected event, anything that even is unwelcome, then it becomes harder for us to get a grasp, right, of what this term means. I think Gramsci here is saying let's bound this term to something specific. And he's saying crisis is precisely that part where the past, in a way, is ceasing to exist, but the future has not yet materialized. And it is that sort of situation where what Karl Marx would say, all that is solid melts into air. All your working assumptions of with the way the world works dissipates, it disappears. Your working assumptions about the way the world operates no longer hold. You're in a new ball game. You're in the new normal. The new normal hasn't yet arrived, but you can clearly see that the old normal is on the way out, right? Where the past is ceasing to exist, the future has not yet arrived. That period, right, is what crisis is in its essence, if you ask me, and I would agree with Gramsci there, right? So if you look at this with COVID, these two would be a Gramscian understanding of crisis, because what happened in 1973, everybody knew things could not go back to what things were before, right? You could not return to the pre-OPEC era. That was over. Similarly with COVID, we are right now in the crisis. We begin to see that our working parameters are no longer functioning. I'm having this interchange with you through basically this technology, of which, as you know, I have very little mastery, rather than seeing you in person, face to face, and interacting with you. This is happening. This is reality. Now, is this going to become the normal everyday feature? Or are we going to be able to return back to what we used to consider normal? Because actually now you can talk about the world existing in 2 periods, right? So the world can be thought of existing BC and one sense CE, okay? Now, in Christian terminology, this meant what? Anybody? BC stood for what? In the terminology of Christianity from which this term comes from. Yes. Faisal, please feel free to unmute someone.
Yes, Professor.
BC stood for?
It stands for before Christ.
Before Christ, right? And Christ means from Christos in Greek means the anointed one, right? So before Christ, and ED, which actually refers to anti-dominus, which means like after God, because the Christians took Christ to be God. But now modern historians write CE, a common era, right? They write CE. So BC is before Corona, and CE is the Corona era. So we are now in that situation, and we don't quite know how things will go. But this is, again, as one of our participants pointed out, is on planetary scales. But here we're talking about leadership, and what does that mean? How is crisis experienced with you as an individual? How is it embodied? How does that sort of planetary weight come crashing down and crushing your shoulders? For that, I have a small video that I would like to share with you. And let's go there. Okay, so let me just give you, can you see the video? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna be playing this video and I hope the audio works. So this is a true story about a very senior corporate executive by the name of Jeffrey Wigand. The story is set in 1996 in the United States. He was the head of research and development of the third largest tobacco manufacturer in the United States, Brown and Williamson, B&W, not to be confused with BMW. So Brown and Williamson, and what he found out as head of R&D was that his bosses in the entire tobacco industry was lying before Congress, saying that nicotine was not addictive. So yes, there was a link to cancer, but they were saying we don't know whether nicotine is addictive. Not only was nicotine addictive, but guess what? They were engaging in a practice called impact boosting, which means that they were manipulating the ammonium and other chemical compounds that they were packing into cigarettes to do what they referred to as impact boosting, which is to increase the surge of nicotine in the human body where it crosses the blood-brain barrier and can effectively be deemed to be a narcotic. He knew all this information. And he saw that they were endangering people's lives. They were lying through their teeth. And as a leader, he was in a crisis situation because he felt the need to tell the truth as a scientist, because his job as a scientist is to do no harm. But at the same time, his responsibility as a corporate manager was to protect the corporation. And he was in a bind, but he decided, hey, truth trumps profits. And he was going to go and tell the American public what was going on. Now, he was going to testify in the state of Mississippi where this scene is taking place. And he would be allowed to testify there in a lawsuit that was being brought by the state against the tobacco industry. But as he was getting ready to go for his testimony, Dr. Jeffrey Wigand, he received a gag order from the state of Kentucky. And the state of Kentucky said that if you testify in Mississippi, when you come back to your home in Kentucky, you will be found in contempt of court and you could well be put in jail. And this is what his lawyers and his legal team are now discussing with him. And now you begin to see what crisis actually means at an individual level, how these massive planetary global social forces are actually experienced and funneled into a single human persona. So I hope this works. Right, we'll find out and play it.
Now, what this one is a temporary restraining order, a gag order, issued by a Kentucky court. Jeff Wigand, Michael Moore.
Good to meet you, Dr. Morgan.
Mike's our Attorney General down here. I was just explaining to Jeff, they got a Kentucky court to issue a gag order to stop his deposition today.
Right.
Now, they tried to get the Mississippi court to honor it, but the judge threw it out. However, for you, there is a more perilous effect to the gag order.
Dr. Wargan, you do understand what can happen, don't you?
I'm not free to testify here.
That's right.
If you violate the Kentucky order, when you step foot back in Kentucky, they can find you in contempt and they can incarcerate you. And you ought to know that.
Jail.
Possibly, yes. That is one of the possible consequences of your testifying here today. That's right.
How does one go to jail? What does my family do? Go on welfare? If my wife has to work, who's gonna look after the kids? Put food on the table. I mean, my children need me. If I'm not teaching, there's no medical. No medical, even on copay, that's like tuition.
Dr. Wargan, listen, you may not be able to do this thing. As I understand from Dick, you're our key witness, and I hope you don't withdraw. I guess we'd all understand it if you did. Guys, I gotta go. I'm gonna be late for court. I'll see y'all a little later. Dr. Wargan, good luck. See you.
I know what you're facing, Jeff. And I think I know how you're feeling. In the Navy, I flew A-6s off carriers. In combat, events have a duration of seconds, sometimes minutes. But what you're going through goes on day in, day out, whether you're ready for it or not. Week in, week out, month after month after month. Whether you're up or whether you're down. You're assaulted psychologically. You're assaulted financially, which is its own special kind of violence because it's directed at your kids. What school can you afford? How will that affect their lives? You're asking yourself, will that limit what they may become? You feel your whole family's future is compromised, held hostage. I do know how it is.
By the way, can you guys guess who the actor was? Right? The one who's making the decision, who's listening to this beautiful sort of soliloquy, right? This monologue on what it means to go through a crisis-like situation as a leader. So the one who's listening to it and who's being reassured. Can anyone tell me who the actor is? Okay, Toefl, feel free to unmute.
Yeah, it's Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe, very good. The Gladiator fame, right? So that is Russell Crowe. So you know that's the beauty of MBSC. When you come here, not only will you get great education, not from me, but from my colleagues on leadership and strategy and management and other related matters, but you'll also learn a lot about good movies. So this movie is called The Insider. It was nominated, I think, for 8 Academy Awards. It's got Al Pacino, Russell Crowe, Christopher Plummer, and it is about business, it's about management, and it's phenomenal. I teach it in my course, Managing Organizational Politics. So if you want to know what decision he makes, come to MBSC, right? So let's move on. And let me go get back to the PowerPoint. Do Gramsci, and we do this. Okay. Right, so what Russell Crowe is going through is, this is what a crisis feels like, okay? And why is this a crisis in a Gramscian, right? So in a class, we would discuss this for 15, 20 minutes, but because he is leaving a past, that past in which he was a top level corporate executive, he's going to be a whistleblower now. No corporation want to hire him because they will always be afraid that this guy will tell the truth no matter what. So his life is coming to an end. The past is ceasing to exist, but the new order is yet to be born. He does not know what his future will look like. It appears bleak, but he has no understanding at this moment what that new normal is going to be. That is a crisis situation where all that is solid is beginning to melt into air. All your working assumptions about the way the world operates are collapsing all around you. And in that, You got to soldier through. You got to keep your head high. You got to walk through that storm with your head held high. That's what you got to do. And this is what it feels like, right? And so now, since we wish to conclude, because I've got my colleagues who have more interesting things to share with you. So how do we deal in that crisis situation? Now, of course, we would spend 8-9 sessions on this. So this is basically an executive summary of an executive summary, right? And what it is, if you can see on the things which have been circled in red, this is from Edgar Allan Poe's book called Descent into the Maelstrom, and that's a sketch, I believe, of his. And the story is about a sailor who's in Scandinavia, and he gets caught in a maelstrom. Now, maelstrom happens in the coastlines of Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, and these places where there's a cross current, where two currents come from opposing ends, and they create this vortex, which is pulling everything down. Now, if you see at your top of your screen, the first circle in red, that is his ship, okay? The second circle is the man, right? Thrown off the ship. Now, how did he get to that stage? So on a normal day, when you're sailing and the sky is blue and the birds are tweeting, being on the ship, is that safer, or being in the sea if you wish to avoid drowning, right? It's actually being in the ship. The ship is a vessel to take you from point A to point B without you drowning. So the ship is basically your safety apparatus. But when you're caught in a vortex, what's fascinating is that which is supposed to save you, that which is supposed to be the solution, actually becomes the problem. Because if you stay on the ship as an object having weight and mass is going to attract gravity. And in a vortex, that gravity is going to pull you down. So the beautiful story that Edgar Allan Poe is saying here is that what the sailor had to do was completely go against his so-called mind and let go of the rails of the ship. And as he let go of the rails of the ship, he was thrown out of the vortex. And had he stuck to the ship, he would have gone down. So one of the most important leadership lessons when you're actually dealing with the crisis where the old is dying and the new is yet to be born, what is described in strategy often as a disruptive change. In that situation, the most important thing to learn is to develop the capacity to unlearn, right? Because what is working in the past is not going to destroy you. And in the case of the sailor, he let go. So one of the most important things that we need to learn in order to reduce stress in a crisis-like situation is not try the old solutions to a new context where they don't fit. Albert Einstein said it beautifully. You know, he said, insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. The context has shifted. You have to try something else. You have to experiment, which means you have to unlearn in order to learn. And if you keep trying the old techniques, you're just going to get frustrated. It's not going to work and you're going to get more stressed out. Whereas you say, okay, we had a good ride. We smiled that it happened. Let's experiment. Let's improvise. Let's come up with something different. That will give you some headway, give you some results, and bring your stress down. So that's one thing. Now, what is the most important thing that you have to unlearn, right? For that, I have another story, and that is the story of the hummingbird, with which I conclude my part of this webinar. And this is a story taught in South Africa. So imagine the South African bush. It catches fire. All the animals are running out. They run out, and it's a raging fire. See, when a fire is a raging fire, it means that it has no direction. It's going every which way loose. In that situation, all the animals are exhausted. They've just gone out, but they see this hummingbird, this tiny little bird. And this hummingbird is going right into the sort of inferno, right? Into the jaws of hell, so to speak, for the animals. And it's taking in its beak as much water as it can carry, and it's putting out. Then it's flying all the way back to a stream where all the animals are huddled. And is taking from its beak another couple of drops and is flying back into the inferno, dropping those droplets of water, then coming back, and the animals are, they're seeing this happening, and they are laughing to themselves. And they say to the hummingbird, right, what are you doing? You have got a raging fire going on, and you're going to this pond, you're carrying just tiny little beadlets or droplets of water. You really think this is going to put out the fire? And guess how the hummingbird replies? The hummingbird replies, yes, I know I will not put out the fire, but this is the best I can do. And that's what I'm doing, right? So what that means is that in a crisis situation, you have to change. And I think in your life philosophy, you should change. This mentality that we're here to take from life, you got to switch to, I'm here to give to life, right? So if you have that hummingbird philosophy, what can I give in a situation? Stress levels come down because you're no longer expecting promotions, bonuses, salaries. Hey, they come, they're great. Don't get me wrong. But you're trying to fix things. You're trying to say, okay, what can I deliver? That's far more in your control. And because it's far more in your control, you feel more relaxed about it, as opposed to trying to keep the customers, trying to do this, trying to make sure you hit your KPIs, worrying about them. So you go from the destination to the journey. You go from the taking mentality to a giving mentality. And that taking mentality is a very disempowering mentality, because as long as you have this desire to take from people, they're in charge. And you're always worried, why didn't that person smile? Why didn't that person applaud? Why didn't that person congratulate me? Why didn't that person promote me? And your stress levels keep going up. But the minute you switch to a giving mode like the hummingbird, guess what? You're free as a bird, right? No pun intended. You can give and give and give because that's in your control. You don't have to worry about things that are not in your control. So these are the lessons, and I hope to see many of you back at MBSC where we can explore them further in greater depth. Thank you for your time. Thank you for indulging me with your patience. Now I turn over the floor to my esteemed colleague, Ms. Jennifer. Jennifer, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Farzad. Now, our next part of our presentation is going to be presented by Amar Medani. He works with us in the admissions office. We will be talking about the college, and then after that, we will talk about the admission process and how to apply at MBSC.
All right, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ammar Al-Madani. I am a senior manager at the admissions office. Allow me just to take it a little bit to introduce you MBSC and how it looks like. Now, I know it's hard to compete with Dr. Farzad in his sessions, but I'll try to keep up with the same. All right, so I'm gonna share with you a presentation. Okay. All right. All right. So just to give you a little bit of background on the college. The college was founded before 2017. However, we opened our doors for admissions in 2017. We've welcomed our first cohort, which are the founding class, in September 2017. Now, the programs that we offer in the college is the master's, the MBA, which is executive MBA. The first cohort graduated, and we were lucky to have other cohorts that actually we crafted in the admissions process, and we are very proud of. So we call them the jewels of our college. Now I'm going to put you through a small video of the students' experience, where you can hear from yourselves, from the students of this. All right.
MBSC is my new home. and it is where my mentors are. For any entrepreneur with a passion, they should apply to MBSC. It's an opportunity that they shouldn't waste. It's a hands-on experience. It's practical from all aspects, and for me, the most impressive of all is the SLE, which is a signature learning experience. It's where you take all the theory and put it in an actual project. Honestly, if you are passionate to become an entrepreneur, I would highly advise you to invest time and, if necessary, the money to be at MBSC, because honestly, this is the place to be.
All right. So I think what makes MBSC more attractive to, I think, most of the education pursuers, is it's in alignment with our country vision. So all the programs, all the curriculum is tailored toward the vision of Saudi Arabia, where we really invest in the upcoming leaders who are going to play a major role in Saudi Arabia. All right. Now, the college is located in King Abdullah Economic City, which also plays a major role in the city, being the entrepreneurship hub, where most of the entrepreneurs, if you can call it mentors and coaches, they all come together in a place where they can exchange their experiences, they can learn from each other. It's a centric approached classroom, so the classmates do learn from each other. You come in with your expertise, you share with others, and it's a two-way communication between the classroom and the professor. The college was actually founded by three stakeholders, which is the King Abdullah Economic City, the MISC Foundation, and Babson Global. The programs that we offer in the college is two programs as of now, which is the Executive MBA, and we do offer also the Masters in Management, which has been launched last year only, and we're lucky to have a beautiful, excellent cohort of MIM founding class. Now, the location for the college also you can have more information on it from the website of King Abdullah Economic City, which shows its location, the facilities that it has, and we also have a small video, which is a virtual tour of the campus. We're going to play for you for a minute. All right. So this is a virtual tour of the campus, which takes us in almost all the values. Thank you for watching that. That was a virtual tour of our campus. You can also have a virtual tour yourself on our website. You can just walk through our campus and you can see all the facilities in our campus. Now, we only have a little bit amount left in this session, so we'll open it for the Q&A. I'll invite Ms. Jennifer with me, the Director of Admissions, so we can have your questions. Let me just stop sharing the presentation so we can open the floor for our Q&A.
I just want to inform you that we do have 2 alumni members with us today, Ms. Hiba and Omar. So if you have any questions directly to a student or an alumni, please don't hesitate to ask. Now for the admissions application, we are open online at this time. We did open at the end of October. So it's best for you to start your application and get it in before the end of December because the application is free. Now for an executive MBA applicant, we are looking for candidates with 3 or more managerial skills. And what we mean by this is you might be in a position where you are leading a few members or many members in your team, or you might have your own startup and you want to accelerate it. So we do look at several things. Our GPA requirements are 3.0 out of 4 or 3.75 out of 5. But there is a leeway on that, but we in admissions would have to really look at your work experience to see if we could bypass that by a little bit. Another area that we look into is your English language. You do need to have an English test. If you have not attended a college or university in the United States, Canada, UK, Australia, or New Zealand. If you have not attended in any of these countries, an English test is required. Okay, if you have any questions, raise your hand and we'll open the floor to you.
Let me see if I can take the questions. Maybe Faisal can help us with the questions coming through, or maybe if someone has a question, you can raise your hand.
And again, if you have any questions for our alumni, please don't hesitate.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
My name is Rayyan. I would like to ask about if we have a resident in the campus for student coming out from outside the city where the college is located, and how much is the expected expenses for the
for the housing.
For the housing and for the living during the days of classes.
Okay. Yes, Cake has several locations for you to stay in. We do have the hotel that's right connected with us, but there is another hotel, the Bayviews. I think a night in the hotel is around $450, but there are other apartments that MBSC rents out for the weekend for you in class, which is approximately less than the $450. I can't tell you exactly, but if you write to admissions, we could pass on your question to the right people, because I wouldn't want to tell you something and then you'll come back later when you told me it was only going to be about $450 a night. So I'd like them to answer you on that question.
I think one point to add to it, Rayyan, if you want to ask, is that we do tend to have Cake as a city offer facilities or let's say benefits to our students. So once you're a student with us and you have the badge which shows that you're a student with us, some of the promotions will include you as well. So you will be actually treated as part of the residence program.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome. Welcome. All right. Any other questions?
Yes, hi. I want to ask 2 questions actually. One, how lean are you about the GPA? I mean, is like 3.4 out of 5 will be acceptable in any situation if a person have like 12 years of experience and he have his own business. So would he stand a shot, or?
Yes, as I
That's
said,
it.
as I said at the beginning, yes, we do take in consideration where you have worked, what you have done in your future or in your past to bring you to MBSC. So yes, we do ask for the 3.75 out of the 5, but again, your experience and what you would bring to the cohort would put you in a position to have an interview. Okay, once you have your interview, then the committee will go on by those recommendations from the interviewers.
Thank you very much. Second part is there any age limit?
For the executive MBA?
Yeah, I don't think we have a limit that says yes or no. But normally, if you look at, the last couple of cohorts we had, the average age was around 32 years old. So we're expecting that's the age around, the applicants as well.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
You're welcome. All right, I see other hands raised. All right, I see Mohammed.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, everybody. This is Engineer Mohammed from Riyadh. So you talk about that any student who hasn't been in a school in the foreign countries need to have a test, right? So what kind of test? Because here in Saudi Arabia, we have 3 types of tests that need to be attended. And what score that I need to accomplish to enter executive? Yes.
All right, we do, we accept the Toefl test, and the Toefl is a 550 or higher, and the IELTS, which is a 6 or higher. Those are the only 2 tests that we accept for the English. We do not accept the STEP test that is offered here at in the Kingdom.
Thank you so much for the clarification.
You're welcome. I think we'll take a couple of more questions. All right, I see.
Alaikum salam. You have a question?
I think it was Ayman. Ayman, you
Yes.
had a...
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Ayman. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have 28 years of experience in a government job, and I just retired and opened my own business. I'm starting my dream. I took 2 nano degrees for the past 2 years with the MISC Academy.
Good, good, good. I mean,
Does that qualify me as an English speaker for? Because my TOEFL exam is, I got more than 7.
You got more than the
Yes,
50
ma'am.
or the 79 in the computer base. But
Yeah.
when did you take that test?
Yeah, it was about 4 years ago.
Okay, so the TOEFL test expires after 2 years. So we would require you to take it. But let me explain something else to everyone. You can still apply and take the test later. Do not stop your application if you don't have an English test at this time. It's something in the application where you can state planning to take the tests.
So do we apply online on
Yes.
the
No,
campus?
online.
On the web?
Yes, on the website, you will see apply now, and then you can click on it and apply. The application will take you into our server, and you have to pick the correct program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Okay. Who do we have next? Atif, I think Atif, you have your hand raised.
Yes, sir. Also 2 questions again. I'm expected to graduate this semester. Can I apply?
Expected to graduate with your bachelor's degree?
Bachelor, yes, yes.
Have you worked while you were doing your bachelor's degree?
Yes. I have 10 years of experience.
Okay, you have 10 years of experience, and very good. So if you have your 10 years of experience and you're going to be graduating this year, you can still apply with us. You'll still have to, you will still have to turn in your certificate after you receive it, but you can go ahead and apply now with what you have. But we'll need to see your transcript and to show that you're ready to graduate. You're expected to graduate.
Okay, thank you very much. Second part is scholarship.
Okay, the lovely question of scholarships. Okay.
Yeah, the big elephant.
The big elephant in the room. Yes. Okay. MBSC, for us as an entrepreneur school, we don't give out 100% scholarships. The highest we give out is a 50% for our top students. Now, with that, you can apply and receive a 50%, and then you can take the GMAT test, which is not required for admissions, but it helps on your scholarship application. There's a GMAT test or the executive assessment test where you can receive 20% more if your score is high, what we're expecting or higher. For the GMAT, it is 550.
Yes.
550, and the executive assessment is 150. So if you apply and you get a 50% and you take one of these tests, you can get an additional 20%. But remember, the 50% go to the highest students.
All right,
Are you there with us?
Yeah, I think Atif, did that answer your question, Atif?
Hope we didn't freeze.
All right, I think Naif is up next. Naif?
Okay, Naif, you have a question?
Yes, hi, thank you for the session. I want to ask a frank question, and sorry for that. Have you done a benchmark to the tuition fees to the local universities? Because your fees seems to be like even higher than the international ones. So even if you do 50%, you're still higher than other universities without any discounts. So how possible is that you revisit your tuition fees? Thank you.
Tuition fees are not under the admissions. I'm sorry to say. This was something that came from our board of directors.
Yeah, not even on that, Naif. I mean, you've mentioned that you want to benchmark with local universities, which, to be honest with you, we look beyond that. So, for example, local universities are not the only metrics that we look at benchmarking. So it's a huge picture. We bench ourselves also with global universities as well. That's the ultimate aim we look for. So the price of the tuition is a formula of different aspects. So it's not just looking at, price tags of local universities and just say, you know what, they offer it at this price, we should offer at this price as well. So it's a long discussion that I think, even if this class wouldn't actually have time enough to discuss it, but this is the overall picture that we look at.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome, Naif. Welcome.
I just want to remind you all as participants that we do have 2 alumni with us. If you want to ask them any questions, Ms. Hiba or Mr. Omar would be willing to answer any of your questions to them.
All right, I think Naif, I think we took a question. So I think next is Ibrahim Al-Ghamdi. Ibrahim. All right, you're on.
Hi. Hi, good evening to you all. Thank you for having this session. It's a great pleasure to know about the MBSC. I have questions regarding the duration of the program for the executive MBA. This is one. And the second question is the program full-time or it's a part-time program? And for the alumni, I want to congratulate them. This is at first. And I want to hear from them about their experience, if any one of them had it as a part-time. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think both of our alumni that are joining us tonight were full-time students where they did the year program, but our part-time program, which is the only program we have at this time for the Executive MBA, is a 2-year program. It happens every other week. At this time, of course, we're doing everything online because of the COVID, but we plan, and inshallah, in September 2021, if you joined us, we hope to be back on campus where we are tonight. And that was your first question, part-time, every 2 weeks?
And the duration?
And the duration is 2 years.
I think, Ibrahim, you've probably followed us before, so you know about the 2 modules that we used to have. So it's now a part-time. Well, the module is a part-time, which is left with us right now, and it's under the EMBA program. So we don't offer any full-time degrees anymore.
Yeah, okay. So if Hiba would like to join up, Hiba?
Yes, hello.
Okay.
Yes. Hi, Ibrahim. Thank you for the congratulations. My name is Hiba Zabi, and I'm honored to be one of MBSC alumni from 2018. My experience with MBA was very, very fruitful, especially through the signature learning experience, which created a venue for applying all the courses through a hands-on experience on a business idea that my team and I have come up with. We were able to articulate a good strategy for our business. We tackled a new market, and we executed what we learned in different courses.
All right, thank you so much, Hiba. I'm not sure if Umar is still on with us. Umar, do you want to say something, being an alumni?
I think, but he's as a participant.
All right, I'm not sure if Umar can hear me.
Yeah, Umar.
Okay, I see you, Umar. You want to go ahead?
Allowed to talk.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello, Umar.
Pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. All right, Umar, what is yours?
Okay, so my name is Omar Fal. I am a student, alumni cohort 2018. I am currently the managing partner in Jusur as a startup for fulfillment as a service. What I really like about the program that there is a lot of experience that is really simulating the real world. So it's not about only theory. We had difficult times negotiating team selection for our projects. We have difficult time making decisions on pivoting on certain business models and different things. And again, it's a good place for those who are scouting for co-founders. So it's really beyond the classical MBA of theory and that stuff. I hope this will give you some thoughts of our experience. And if you have any question, I'm here to answer it.
Thank you, Umar. Thank you so much, Umar. All right. I think Ibrahim did answer your question, Ibrahim. Take that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback from you guys and from the team, and let's hope for the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, man. All right. I think next we have Isa Rashidi. All right, Isa, want to go ahead?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you for an excellent session. And I would like to ask you one question about has MBS has been approved by Ministry of Education in Saudi Arabia or not? Still not. Thanks.
All right. That's a good question, Isa. Currently, we have all the papers lined up for submission for the accreditation purposes. So we are almost there, inshallah. That's the answer I have for you, Isa, right now.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions, Isa? All right. I think that was the last question from Isa. Okay. I think we still have around, oh, actually over time. All right. So does anyone have any questions that we can take quickly?
Faisal.
Okay, I think Faisal would be the last one. Now, before Faisal goes on, our admissions team are welcoming all the questions that you want. So we have an email address, which is admissions with an S at mbsc.edu.sa. You can drop all the questions that you want. Someone will pick up that question and come back to you with an answer. All right, so let's go with Faisal. Faisal. Faisal, can you hear us?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the great session. My question is how the payment will be happening. It's the beginning of the semester, or it can be a monthly basis, or at the end of the year. Thank you very much.
Okay, finance is always in touch with you about your payments. You do pay ahead of the semester that you're starting. We have the 4 terms. It's not semesters, it's the 4 terms. And you do pay the fees before you start your session. They do have some leeway on making monthly payments, but you would have to be in touch with finance once you're accepted and make an agreement with them on how you'd make your payments. But again, that is something you would have to talk to student finance about before you start.
Okay, it's clear. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I think this should be the end of our session.
Yes.
Again, thank you all for coming and joining. And our email address can be found on our website, the admissions email address. And we welcome you all for all the questions, and we hope to see you all on campus. All right. Okay, thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you. Assalam.